welcome our guest speaker today, Rob Leeming, as he speaks about Mother Nature nurtures, the Mother Nature within all of us. So welcome, Rob.
Well, community, and happy Mother's Day. For those that are our mothers or have come through mothers, we're all part of the same experience. Is the sound on? Rick? Is it okay? Okay, there we are. All right, thank you. So what do we think of Mother's Day? Do we think of who gave us birth, or do we think of the source of the nutrients that we form these bodies from? How do we describe such an awesome responsibility of expanding and sustaining these lives that we live? Sometimes it's the wonder when we come through a hard winter and we come into spring and we notice all the new growth and the new possibilities that are being presented to us. Sometimes we recognize how this free will experience grows. And when we bring something new into this life, we recognize that it has a free will choice of choosing good or choosing bad. And a naturally aligned mother teaches through cause and effect. And I feel that mine did a good job because she was very persistent. And when my causes were not of growth, there was an effect. And I recognized these effects as something that was helping me thrive and surthrive in my environment. And she always said, she's like, I'm going to love you regardless, but I want other people to at least like you. Hard work and persistence is some of the other terms that we can use being a mother. Because it is, you labor for 9 months and it comes to a culmination where your baby comes into this world. Or sometimes we're working with the land and it takes a lot of time, but it shifts intentionally with our actions and our intentions. And we can create sustainability, we can create an environment that we would all like to be in. But it takes that intention, and it takes the source of that creation. Our mother brings us into this experience because of her direct connection with the planet and the orbiting moon that brings in the lunar cycles. That without that, they don't enter into fertility. We don't bring that new experience and the changes. And the moon shows us every month, every just over 29 days. It's a cycle that completes and it renews, and it brings new life, and it allows death to occur. We recognize that death isn't something we should ever fear. It's just a natural process of evolution. It's every bit as natural as being born. The natural cycles, when she's living within those circadian rhythms, her mother's very familiar with those lunar cycles. Modern technology and convenience has kind of taken us away from our natural ways of being. We're in artificial light, we're in artificial air, we're in shelters that sometimes involve perpetual debt. When we look to nature as our model, the little squirrel that lives on my property, he didn't ask anybody to build a house there. He dug a little hole and he's been living there for quite some time. And he's never had to pay a dime. And so I kind of wonder, we're the most intelligent creatures on the earth, but yet we're paying to exist. And we're the only ones that do that. We can learn something from animals. We can learn a lot from them. I spend a lot of my time watching animals and participating in nature. And one of my mentors lately has been the beaver. The beaver looks at an environment, sees a falling water resource, and says, hey, if I hold on to this with a little manipulation of the land, I create a sustainable, thriving environment for everybody around me. And although the term eager as a beaver or working hard as a beaver is very true, they have a lot of time of their own leisure after they've completed their mission. You know, they get the time to swim around. They've got a house that they've created in a project. And so I've kind of done the same thing. I have a piece of property I call Hawks Haven out in D.C. And I'm creating a sustainable environment where I don't have to work my whole life away. I get to experience life instead of just experience the perpetual debt that a lot of us are burdened with. Animals don't see struggle, you know, and they don't deal with money. Those that don't have money in our environment right now, they struggle. And those that do have money, they still struggle because there's seemingly never enough. You know, so when we're consistently looking for more, we're failing to recognize the abundance that's already currently available everywhere we are. So how do we shift to become aligned more with nature? There's a lot of choices that we make every day, and some of those choices are based on popularity, they're based on what's been advertised to us, they're based on what everyone else is doing. And for a long time, we've been doing what everybody else is doing, and we haven't been growing with the abilities that I believe is possible with humanity. So some of these items is everything about how we live life. You know, the shelter we choose, where do we source our food from? Do we get our food from the source, or do we get it from the stores? You know, phonetically it sounds very similar, but the implications in our health and our wellness, the availability for everyone, is very, you know, it's a big shift in how we do things. You know, can we go out into our yards and pick the foods that we want and have abundance to be able to share with others, or do we have to go out and earn money and then buy it from the stores? There's a lot of waste from the stores because it's an idea of everything has to be perfect, whereas in nature, nothing's perfect. None of us are. And when we recognize that if that little bug is eating the fruit, it's probably healthy for us too. They have the divine intelligence within them that can't be advertised to only buy something that's blemish-free. We need to become aligned with freedom and independence. And right now, a lot of us live in dependence of others and of relationships that are not always voluntary. When we step into freedom for ourselves, we acknowledge and recognize that freedom should be experienced by everyone equally. And so we do that by voluntary interactions with each other, and some of the abundance that I've witnessed in just the last week or so. Lori, she gifted a peach tree and some strawberries and blackberries. And Warren came out the other day and he enjoyed a few days planting tomatoes and cucumber seeds and watermelons and cantaloupes and all sorts of great stuff. So we need to be conscious of our free will choices because we do have the ability of making any choices that we want. Now, are we making choices towards sustainability and a symbiotic existence with our environment, or are we still supporting what hasn't been working? Shifting the way we do things, we become focused on presenting a new path that leads to human well-being, not necessarily economic growth. You know, we place the economy as a forefront for some time, and humanity is still failing. But when we place humanity as our primary source of attention, we'll get a naturally thriving economy as well. That's just because everybody's thriving. We don't have to worry about the struggle because we do live in abundance. I picked up 1,800 pounds of food the other day that my goats loved, but it wasn't suitable for the shelf in the stores. So we're turning it into healthy soil. So we're working with the land, we're helping Mother Nature to provide that abundance with our intentions. And a seed, seemingly so insignificant, can produce so much food because one seed placed into the ground brings more seeds, and when we save those seeds and we share them with our friends and family, we start to provide abundance locally. and locally, it happens everywhere. So when we start focusing on what we can control, we are building a life that we can find favorable. So what I've done, recognizing this, is about 5 years ago I closed a thriving business. I was a plumbing contractor. And I started focusing on this project that I have. And it's based on permaculture and yoga. Permaculture is the intentional shifting of the landscape to promote the abundance and symbiotic, sustainable living. And yoga helps to take the individual and become union with everything around us. And when we can control ourselves in a favorable way, we find that we can hold peace, we can hold joy, we can hold happiness in our lives, in each now moment. And luckily, it's always right now. So my learning platform is called Haven. And I used to call it a teaching platform, but I've done more learning there than teaching. And nature as the teacher. You know, I have ravens that they protect their environment, the canyon behind my home. Problems become solutions when we recognize alternatives that haven't been advertised to us. You know, so we can take anything that we see as a burden or a problem in our society, and looking at it through this perspective, we can build growth from it. You know, some things are desirable, some things are less than desirable. But everything's happening for us instead of to us with that right perspective. Mother Nature nurtures when we work with all the natural models that she provides. Any questions? You know, it's been a great experience coming into Unity. It's a spiritual family, and we're recognizing the roles of the mother in our world, in our lives, and without that mother, without that creative force, none of us would be here. You know, and man and woman have just come together in unison to create this, you know, experience. When my mom gave me this body, it was really little. I mean, I started eating things from the land and started taking things from the earth and building a bigger body. And for a while, I was building my body on hamburgers and some of the foods that weren't as healthy for me. And I was facing those cause and effect models. I've been stepping towards a more natural diet, one that nature provides naturally. Raw food, raw vegetables. My mind is cleared, my body is cleared. I'm healthier now in my 40s than I was in my 20s and 30s. And even active duty, I was running 5K 3 times a week. So it was a good experience, but it still wasn't bringing me health. I was still sick every year. Coming back to nature, I haven't been sick in over a decade. And it's just getting that natural principles, getting that natural element of life directly. You know, it's not through the middleman. It's through that direct connection. And we all have that available to us. Anyway, I think my time is pretty close. All right. Thank you all.